Hello everyone, my name is Commander Tofu, and we're back with episode 3 of Hidden Rocks, the series where we talk about cards that aren't quite good enough to be called hidden gems, but still might deserve to see play in a deck somewhere. We'll be talking about 3 cards that, as of this recording, show up in a combined total of 340 decks on EDH Rec. To put that in perspective, the card Grizzly Bears shows up in 1,276 decks. So these 3 cards don't even get played 1/3 the amount of a vanilla tutu. Let's see if we can find them a home. Our first card today is one of the most unique cards in Magic. It lets you do something that no other card does, so it has to be super powerful, right? Well, kinda. Serum Powder lets you exile your starting hand before the game to get another free mulligan, and it also happens to be a 3-mana mana rock that taps for a colorless. Now the casual nature of Commander does sorta make this card less appealing. In every playgroup I've played in, people just let you take free mulligans until you get an okay starting hand. So why would you want to run a bad mana rock that doesn't really have upside? The secret here is that we don't care about the extra mulligan. We're trying to take advantage of the fact that you get to exile cards from our deck for free. So what commander would pair well with that ability? Zakama Primal Calamity. But Tofu, why would you want to run Serum Powder in this deck? Well, my students, Zakama is one of the better commanders to run Food Chain combos in, because the commander can give you tons of mana with Food Chain, and he also basically wins the game if you have infinite mana. And you know what goes well with Food Chain? Creatures you can play from exile. That's right, you can play Squee the Immortal and Eternal Scourge in your Zakama deck. And if you ever get one of them with a Food Chain on the board, you can get infinite Food Chain mana, play Zakama infinite times to untap your lands, and use his abilities infinite times and just raffle stomp the entire table. The Serum Powder helps us here because if we ever start with one of our exile creatures and Serum Powder in our opening hand, then we can exile that hand and save the creature for later. It's like you're starting with an extra combo piece. Also, Serum Powder doesn't have that much downside if we don't get it in our opening hand, because any card that lets us get out Zakama a turn faster is pretty useful. Now you might be wondering, but Tofu, how likely is it that we even get this perfect opening hand in the first place? Well, that's a good question. The chance that any opening hand will have both Serum Powder and one of our 2 specific creatures in it is about 0.84%. Huh. Okay, that's pretty bad. I mean, it's still super janky and fun, and I do personally run these cards in my Zakama deck, but this might be a little too bad to be a hidden rock. Let's see here. Okay, new idea. There's another commander that makes an even better home for Serum Powder, and that commander is Ormos Archive Keeper. This guy is like having a Laboratory Maniac in your command zone, only instead of winning the game, you get a big flyer. So in other words, this guy is a lot worse than having a Laboratory Maniac in the command zone. But he's cool, and if you put Serum Powder in your deck, then every game you start with it, your deck will be 7 cards smaller right off the bat, so you'll be 7 steps closer to buffing up your commander and killing people with it. Since you only need to have the Serum Powder in your opening hand, you can take advantage of its effect about 7% of the time in this deck, so this seems like it's actually a pretty good fit for the card. Now let's take a look at our next hidden rock. We have Abujafar, the best 1-mana white human from Chronicles. Also, can we just take a sec to look at that beautiful type line? Summon Leper. Sadly, Abu has been oracled to just be a human, but it makes me happy to know that Leper was once a real creature type in this game. Abu's rules text has also been oracled, so now it says, when Abujafar dies, destroy all creatures that were blocking or blocked by it. They can't be regenerated. So Abu just reaches out his gross lepery hands and destroys anything that gets close enough to touch him. This ability honestly doesn't seem too terrible because a 1-drop that destroys a creature is pretty good. And if we could somehow destroy multiple creatures with this guy, that could be a lot of value. If only there was a white commander that let you control how things block during combat. Okay, yeah, I know. I used Audric last episode, but you know what? there's a good reason I'm already using repeat commanders. It's my channel, and you can't stop me. But in all seriousness, this isn't a bad card in an Odric deck. For 1 mana, you get a creature that can attack once and wipe out an entire opponent's board if you have Odric online. And white has a ton of ways to recur small creatures already, so you might even get in multiple attacks with this guy over the course of a game. Now I know that's a lot of what ifs, because you do have to have Odric on the board and Abu, and enough creatures to make Odric's ability work, and a way to recur Abu if you want to do it more than once, and your opponent does have to have creatures that you want to destroy in the first place. But we like to dream here on this channel, so go give this card some love and destroy your opponents with leathery goodness. Now on to our last card. This card is the first land we've ever talked about in this series, and boy is it a good one. I'm very surprised that this card hardly sees any play, because I genuinely think that there are tons of decks out there that should be running it. I mean, it was printed in the same cycle as Karakas, and that card is so good it's banned. The land I'm talking about is Talaria. No, not that one. Not that one either. Yeah, that one. The original Talaria. This legendary land comes in untapped and taps for a blue mana, so it's already practically strictly better than a basic island. Woo! But it has a second ability on top of that. Talk about utility! The second ability could basically do nothing, and this card would still be great because the opportunity cost of running it is basically 0. Alright, so what does this ability do? Let's see. Let me get the Oracle text out here. Target creature loses banding and all bands with other abilities until end of turn. Activate this ability only during any upkeep step. Okay, so the second ability does basically do nothing, and it even only allows you to do said nothing during your upkeep for some reason. Like, for real, why did they think that Talaria was the one that needed a timing restriction? Sure, Karakas can bounce legendary creatures for free, but interacting with banding at instant speed is just way too strong. We gotta nerf that blue land for sure, guys. For those who don't know, banding is a super old meme mechanic that's so bad that I'm not even going to take the time to explain what it does. I've been playing Commander for years, and I haven't once seen the word banding appear on any real physical card in my life. So why would you want to have a land that can tap for blue with a second ability that does nothing? Well, the secret here is that the second ability actually does 2 things. Sure, it makes a creature lose banding, which is effectively useless, but it also targets the creature. This can come in handy sometimes, even if you don't build around it at all. You can use it to kill phantasmal images, or to fizzle the protection ability from Kira Great Glass Spinner. You can even use it to counter Harobi decks. Aside from these super niche cases, blue also just so happens to have a lot of payoffs for targeting creatures. If you have a Will Breaker on the board, then you can tap Talaria during the upkeep to steal a creature. There are more cards like this too, such as Dismiss into Dream, which makes your opponent sacrifice creatures whenever they get targeted, or Cowardice, which just bounces the creatures. So what deck would want to run this card? There are actually a couple different options, but I decided to go with the newest one, which is Orvar the Allform. Now Talaria doesn't synergize with Orvar himself, but Orvar decks run a ton of instants and sorceries that basically just target things. So almost every Orvar deck is going to at least run a Will Breaker. If you want to go a little more janky than that, you could run Blind Seer as your commander instead, since he can target any creature or permanent for just 2 mana. That deck is bound to run a lot of targeting payoffs, so Talaria should be a perfect fit. Really, the commander isn't what matters here. If your deck is blue, and you have even a single targeting payoff, then you probably want to put Talaria in there. I hope you liked the episode, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one. I'm pretty excited for the next one, because we're going to be doing a deep dive into one of the most confusing Commander legal cards out there, and we're going to see just how much we can break the rules of Magic. And no, this won't be like the time I said I was going to do a Narfi video, and then I just didn't. That definitely never happened. I always keep my promises.